Laura here with Freedom Makers calling, or reaching out to you guys on Facebook Live on this Thursday, August 2nd. Just want to give a shout out to my brother for his birthday. Happy birthday, James. And just because I can, and I love birthdays and I love my brother. So happy birthday to James. And today I want to share with you what's a couple questions that impressed me recently when I was speaking with a business owner. And the reason why they impressed me is we've been in business now where this is our 4th year in business, and a year or so in, we settled into our business model, and as a result, lately I feel like the sales conversations are kind of the same. Business owners generally need the same kind of help, and we generally provide the same kind of solution. And so they were getting, I felt like maybe kind of run of the mill lately. And then I was speaking with this business owner, a professional speaker, and he asked me a couple questions, and I thought, wow, I have not been asked those questions in recent memory, and I was so impressed, so I wanted to share them with you today. And the first one was that, what tasks should a new business owner be outsourcing? He'd been in business for about a year. And so I shared with him, generally speaking, tasks that are outside of your zone of genius. I know that's like a hit phrase these days, but he gave the example of he was losing sleep at night because he was worried about trying to figure out how to do his quarterly tax payments. And then finally, someone in his circle told him, why are you wasting your time on that? Hire a CPA who will take care of that for you. And so he did, and then he could sleep at night. And so he gave me that example, and he was asking me what are some tasks that new business owners should be outsourcing. And so to be as general as possible, I would say ones that are outside of your zone of genius. So in his case, not having been a tax person, not having been a CPA or bookkeeper or accountant, figuring out, making sure his quarterly tax payments estimates were submitted on time and calculated and submitted on time, that was outside of his zone of genius. And so generally speaking, like you might get these different types of feedback, like if you charge $150 an hour, you should outsource anything that's not worth that time. I tend to go more like, if you don't like doing it, and if you don't like doing it because you're not good at it, because you don't know how, or because you find it boring, then those are tasks that you should outsource, because it's not just about time management, it's also about energy management. And so if you are, if there is a task that does not take a lot of time, maybe it only takes 20 minutes, but you really dislike doing it, so you procrastinate it for an hour, and then you finally do it. So yeah, you've now spent an hour and 20 minutes doing it, but more importantly, that 20 minutes took a lot more energy than 20 minutes of something you enjoy doing, right? If you think about it, time flies when you're having fun. That phrase means something, and you're in business because there's something that you enjoy doing. But there are parts of your business you're not going to enjoy doing, and that time does not fly when you're not having fun. So generally speaking, tasks that are where you're just not in flow, it's not fun for you, and especially in your first year of business, you can afford to get rid of or to delegate, then those would be the tasks you'd want to outsource. Now, affording is an interesting concept because, they say, well, if you charge $150 an hour and you could pay someone 30, 40, or even less if you really wanted to, hours per hour to get something done, then you've netted $120, right? The difference is when you're a brand new business owner, you might not have anyone to bill for that $150, so maybe that doesn't quite work out. But that's where I go back to that energy point. If because you outsource that thing, you now have more energy to do what you love, then you're going to go earn more revenue because you're going to do what you love, and that's going to bring in more revenue. And so something to think about there is when you're thinking about what to outsource. I did link a couple of articles that we've put together over time about helping businesses figure out what they should delegate. And so the first one is an infographic on a startup should outsource when, and we talk about things like that, like if it's not a full-time need, if it's not your expertise. So you can take a look at that. And the other one is another infographic actually, and it's just a list of 10 tasks you can outsource. Those are just some of the more common ones that we see requested. So I did share that with you. And the second question he asked that impressed me was, what do we look for in clients? And he said, I've come to realize that I'll be hiring you just as much as you'll be hiring me. And that may or may not be true, but that was a good point, because certainly any good salesperson and any good business owner is screening for clients that would be a good fit, mostly because we want to make sure we're doing a good job, right? If someone needs something, a service that we can't provide, then agreeing to support them is going to lead to disappointment on both sides, because we're not doing a good job and it's not meeting their needs. And in some cases, like consultants or independent consultants, they're going to be looking for fit as well, because we've all heard about that, right? The asshole client, the demanding client that no one wants to deal with kind of thing. And I think Tim Ferriss even wrote a lot about that in his book, The 4-Hour Work Week, when, you know, the 20% of your bad clients take up 80% of your time or something like that. And so you want to try your best to bring on a good client to make sure it's a fit, so that you enjoy working with them, which then of course makes you do a better job, which then meets their needs. So it's a win-win all around. And so he asked me, you know, what do I look for in clients? And I said, there are two things that we as a virtual assistant company look for in a client. One is, are they systems oriented? Because that's a key thing. I think one of the key differences between using a virtual assistant or an employee, and granted, your employee could be virtual, but using a company like us versus hiring someone directly. And that is that if you think about a traditional admin assistant who's sitting outside your office, sort of gatekeeping your door, literally, as well as your phone and your email and things like that, versus a virtual one who's working from home, the one that's outside your office, you can just walk out there or yell if you really want to, hey, can you go print this or take care of that or take care of this? And they'll do that, right? Because they are 100% dedicated to supporting you. A virtual assistant, by definition, is going to have multiple clients and who they are supporting. So you can't just call them up and be like, hey, can you book me this flight to New York tonight for this meeting, last minute meeting tomorrow? They might be like, one, they may not even be able to answer the phone because they might be supporting another client, but two, they may not be able to get to it for a couple hours, depending on what's going on with their other clients. So the point, though, is that a VA is not at your beck and call. They're not there for every whim that comes to mind, like a traditional admin assistant will be. And so if you are systems oriented, then that helps you to rely on your virtual assistant more efficiently. And that's a key thing that I look for, because as business owners, we are doing a lot all the time. We're wearing lots of hats. And so if we're completely, not even completely, just a little bit disorganized or don't quite have a system in place, even if it's not written down, but we don't quite have it in place in our minds, then it makes it harder to rely on someone else to get it done, especially if they're just not there to jump in and figure it out because they're miles away working from home type thing. So that is something that I do look for, is even if they don't have systems, do they think in a systematic way so that they can effectively and efficiently rely on a virtual support person. And the third link that I put on here is a link to a webinar that I gave about how to build systems. And we call them set it and forget it systems. So you can check out that link if you want some tips on that, some deeper tips on that. The other thing that we look for in clients is what are their expectations of a VA? And that kind of fits in with the being systems oriented. If they are looking for someone who they can just sort of dump something onto them when it comes up in the business owner's mind, then that may be okay if they find the right fit, but at least we know that, so we know to look for someone who can handle that. And I usually do talk about that with the 5 levels of delegation. So level 1 being do exactly what I said and how I said to do it. And level 5 being go take care of it. I trust you completely. I don't even need to know what you did. I trust that you got it done. And then 2, 3, and 4 are in between that. So what we look for is, 1, do they have a clear idea of what level of delegation they're looking for? And if so, can we match them with that level, right? Some people can handle all 5 levels of work. Other people, if they're a level 5 person, they really struggle with doing level 1 work, and vice versa. If they're a level 1 person, they might struggle with doing level 5. They might want more guidance and clarity on what the business owner is looking for. And neither is wrong, neither is bad. It's just some people prefer to work in one level and other people prefer to work in another level. So we got to make sure we match the right level to what the client's expectations are. So that is the second thing I look for, is what are their expectations? Are their expectations realistic for a VA, which goes back to that being systems oriented? And if so, can we match to those expectations? And so that is the last thing I linked, is how, what is an effective way to use a VA, and that the whole topic is around expectations, what the different types of expectations you can have for a VA, and how to set them, and how to find the right person to meet them. So that's the last article that I shared on here, or the last blog that I shared on here, is around expectations with a VA. So I just want to share with you those 2 today, those 2 questions that impressed me. 1, what are tasks that a new business owner should outsource? And the other is, what do I look for in clients? And I hope those are useful for you. And even if you, maybe that's something to think about as you're pursuing vendors or pursuing clients. Like, those are some questions to consider while you're matching up with clients. I wish you well. I hope all is great, and great start to the month of August, the end of summer. I don't want to say that. Well, it's just going to be always summer in my mind. Anyway, wishing you well. Talk to you next week. Bye.